rankings room has never been taken on by anybody but me. And when I take them on, I don't get anywhere with it. Like, there's no embarrassment. There's nobody that pushes back. I don't get a nice volley back and forth. They share their ideas, try to smarten me up. Hey, Chael, here's what you're missing. It doesn't change the fact, right? And one thing that your mother told you about bullies, and she was right. If you ignore them, they'll go away. The bully wants some attention. So for the most part, I've gone away. I want some attention. But I also want to prove to you that I'm right. And in time, the truth always comes out. So my problem with the rankings, many problems, but my problem is just from a courage. You must have courage of your convictions. Not only do you need to have the information and the right education, you must then have a courage to implement it, which is always a problem in everything that we do. So when I will look at the rankings, I'll say, do you really mean that? Do you really mean that? I don't know where Bo Nickel is ranked, guys. I don't believe he's in the top 15. I don't think he's ranked anything. But I don't know where he's ranked. I know for sure he's not in the top 10. I know he's not in the top 10. But if I went and asked the rankings committee privately, hey, do you really believe that you know 10 guys that can beat Bo Nickel? They would laugh and go, oh, no, of course, I'm not sure Bo couldn't be champion of the world right now. Okay, great. Then why haven't you ranked him? Well, he hasn't beaten anybody. And that's where the game begins. But the game of he hasn't beaten anybody ranked, or the game is I can't put him at number 9 until he fights at number 9. The game of that is made up in your head. That's the problem. Like, if that was an actual criteria, there are seeds. The Big Ten just went through it for wrestling. There is some ridiculous things to get written down, but then we have to follow that criterion. There isn't a criterion for this. There is not a list. There is not a procedure. It is purely objective as well, or it's purely subjective, but you need to be objective to be able to get it right. So I bring this to you. I couldn't get ranked. You know, I couldn't get ranked anything. I was the best guy in the world. There wasn't even a close second. It couldn't win a round. And I went and fought not only the number one guy pound for pound, which was Anderson. And I won every single minute. In many rounds. 2 of those many rounds were 10-8. He remained number 1. I remained without a ranking. It didn't hurt him. It didn't help me. I thought, how can you know what you're looking at, look at something, and then come back to that conclusion? And Saint-Denis he had the best performance of the night. The most loaded card, loaded with talent. Between that card, 57 main events. That's a great stat, isn't it? That is a great stat. I got to give Andrew credit for that over at ESPN, but that is such a terrific stat. UFC 300 will have 74 main events between the roster. So that will be the record of all time. 299 is currently has the record until 300 happens. The record. And of all of those wonderful things, the performance of the night came from Saint-Denis. The single best performance. The single biggest wow. He picked Dustin Poirier apart. He pressured him. He beat him on the ground. He cut the cage off. He beat him with combinations. He looked stronger. What else do you want to do? He looked like the superior grappler, having him down, controlling his hips. The defense of guillotine chokes, by example. I mean, like, it was the performance, okay? Most fights are scheduled for 3 rounds. It was odd that this one was scheduled for 5. Had this been scheduled for 3, like it should have been, under the policies of which we have been told, in a sport that fiercely adheres to the rules that get made up on the fly, title fights and main events are 5 rounds and nothing else. I know somewhere over time we've made exceptions. I can tell you that fights right off the top of my head. But we've never been told there's a policy to make exceptions. We've just made them. There's been no pushback. There's been no outcry. So when you take that into consideration, had that fight been scored the way that it should have been scored, if it was scheduled for the rounds it should have been, that the commission suggest that everywhere we go, that everybody else on that card except for the world title fight fell under, Saint-Denis' performance would match the outcome, and he would be ranked likely number 3 right now. He went into that fight number 12. His performance and skills, of which he showed to our alleged experts in the ranking rooms, still keep him out of the top 10. And it would just seem as though if you saw what you saw, and your job is to now rank them right. And see, you have outcome and you have performance. And there is a time for both. And that time is when you put a belt around somebody's waist. It doesn't matter who the best is if he won. It doesn't matter who's skilled, who hits hard. It doesn't make one bit of difference. One guy's a black belt and one guy's clearly a blue belt. If the blue belt beat him, you got to put that belt on him. That is when outcome matters. The rest of the time is performance. Who do you believe? So you don't come down to this ranking. So you don't come down to, well, he beat him and he beat him and he knew his mom before he dated his sister. Like, it doesn't get into that. You're an expert. Tell me who's who. And after you saw what you saw from Saint-Denis, where any other standard, including the ones held that night, would have brought a fight to a conclusion with every single round going to him. I mean, it's a very interesting spot, right? Like, you don't hurt Poirier's position. That's where the outcome factor comes in. But there has to be something said for performance. And the experts in the ranking committee, it's their job to be able to see that and know who is who. They don't think there's 10 guys that could beat Bo Nickel, but they won't rank Bo in the top 10. Even though there's no criterion that would stop them.